Hi, welcome to the Bible in a Year live Book of Enoch project. And today we start a new book, Book 4, and we'll read chapters 1 to halfway in chapter 2, I think about verse 42. So let's dive in. May the Lord help us to uncover more mysteries about who He is, that we can glorify Him. Because Jesus Christ is Lord. Amen. Chapter 1. Enoch is taken. And it came to pass after this that his name during his lifetime was raised aloft to that Son of Man and to the Lord of spirits from amongst those who dwell on the earth. And he was raised aloft on the chariots of the Spirit, and his name vanished among them. And from that day I was no longer numbered amongst them, and he set me between the two winds, between the north and the west, where the angels took the cords to measure for me the place for the elect and righteous. And there I saw the first fathers and the righteous, who from the beginning dwell in that place. And it came to pass after this that my spirit was translated, and it ascended into the heavens. I saw the holy sons of God. They were stepping on flames of fire. Their garments were white, and their faces shone like snow. And I saw two streams of fire, and the light of that fire shone like hyacinth. And I fell on my face before the Lord of spirits. And the angel Michael seized me by my right hand and lifted me up and led me forth into all the secrets. And he showed me all the secrets of righteousness. And he showed me all the secrets of the ends of the heaven, and all the chambers of all the stars, and all the luminaries, whence they proceeded before the face of the holy ones. And he translated my spirit in the heaven of heavens, and I saw there, as it were, a structure built of crystals, and between those crystals tongues of living fire. And my spirit saw the girdle which girt that house of fire, and on its four sides were streams full of living fire, and they girt that house. And round about were the seraphim, cherubic, and ophanim, and these are they who sleep not, and guard the throne of his glory. And I saw angels who could not be counted, 1,000, thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, encircling that house, and Michael, and Raphael, and Gabriel, and Phanuel, and the holy angels who are above the heavens go in and out of that house. And they came forth from that house, and Michael and Gabriel, Raphael and Phanuel, and many holy angels without number. And with them the head of days, his head white and pure as wool, and his raiment indescribable. And I fell on my face, and my whole body became relaxed, and my spirit was transfigured. And I cried with a loud voice, with the spirit of power, and blessed and glorified and extolled. And these blessings which went forth out of my mouth were well pleasing before that head of days. And that head of days came with Michael and Gabriel, Raphael and Phanuel, 1,000 and 10,000s of angels without number. And he came to me and greeted me with his voice, and said unto me, This is the Son of Man who is born unto righteousness, and righteousness abides over him, and the righteousness of the head of days forsakes him not. And he said unto me, He proclaims unto thee peace in the name of the world to come. For from hence has proceeded peace since the creation of the world, and so it shall be until thee forever and forever and ever. And all shall walk in his ways, since righteousness never forsaketh him. With him will be their dwelling places, and with him their heritage, and they shall not be separated from him forever and ever and ever. And so there shall be length of days with that Son of Man, and the righteous shall have peace and an upright way in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. Chapter 2. The Luminaries. The book of the course of the luminaries of the heaven, the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world, and unto eternity, till the new creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heavens, and its setting in the western portals of the heavens. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals, and the leaders of the stars and those whom they led, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the fourth. And in that fourth portal from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 windows opening, from which proceeded a flame when they are opened in their season. And when the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through the fourth portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of the heaven. And during this period the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 30th morning. On that day, the day is longer than the night by a ninth part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from the fourth portal and sets in the fourth and returns to the fifth portal of the east 30 mornings and rises from it and sets in the fifth portal. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal, and rises and sets in the sixth portal 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east and enters into the sixth portal and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from that sixth portal into the west, and goes to the east, and rises in the fifth portal for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the fifth western portal. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts, and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes forth from that fifth portal, and sets in the fifth portal of the west, and rises in the fourth portal for 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign, and it sets in the west. On that day, the days equalize with the night, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east and rises 30 mornings in the third portal, and sets in the west in the third portal. And on that day, the night becomes longer than the day, and the night becomes longer than night, and the day shorter than day till the 30th morning, and the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that third portal and sets in the third portal in the west, and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the second portal in the east, and in like manner sets in the second portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from that second portal and sets in the west in the second portal, and returns to the east into the first portal for 1 and 30 mornings, and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And the sun has traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night, as the night decreased in length by a ninth part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun has returned and entered into the second portal in the east, and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 1 and 30 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the years exactly as to its days 364. And the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law and the course of the sun, and his return as often as he returns 60 times, and rises for ever and ever. And that which rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. And he rises, so he sets and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards size, they are both equal. And after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in measure. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning, and on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the portal where the sun rises. And the one half of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of 1 part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible that night, with the 14 parts and the half of one of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days she becomes bright in the 13 parts. And I saw another course, a law for her, how according to that law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these Uriel the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions. And I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights, till 15 days were accomplished. In single 7-month parts she accomplishes all her lights in the east, and in single 7 parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar course. In 2 months the moon sets with the sun in those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and the 4th. She goes forth for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the portal where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light, and she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the fourth portal, she goes forth 7 days, until she goes forth from the fifth and turns back again in 7 days into the fourth portal and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the first portal in 8 days. And she returns again in 7 days into the fourth portal from which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw their position, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. So, in our first chapter today, it seems like the recorder of Enoch is giving an expansion to what it was like when Enoch was taken away and went into heaven. And Enoch is introduced, as it were, to the head of days, which we presume to be God, and the Son of Man, which we know to be Jesus. And it's almost as if he's able to be in their presence and almost like a shaking of hand. Probably not like a shaking of hand, but in a sense, like he's brought to meet the boss and the CEO. Interestingly, that's a little bit different from the experiences that we see in the Bible with Moses and Elijah, where when they were introduced to God, it was almost like a covering up the face and a couple other obstacles. Moses was told to hide his face and he was only allowed to see the back of God, whatever that looks like. And Elijah covered his face with his mantle, and then he only heard a still small voice, among some other obstacles that are mentioned in the text. So Enoch is a little bit interesting, and I guess that is just something for consideration. What is also interesting is that there's a debate about these three and which two might be the two witnesses that are mentioned in Revelations that come back and preach to the world. There's one group of people that believe the two witnesses will be Enoch and Elijah, since they were both taken away and have not died. And one of the verses that are used is the verse in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27, that says that it is appointed unto man once to die, and both Enoch and Elijah have not experienced their earthly death yet. So, with that and a couple of other scriptures, there are some scholars that believe that those two will be the ones that come back to be the witnesses in Revelations to experience their earthly death, as all men do. Then there's another set of scholars that believe the two witnesses will be Moses and Elijah. Moses was kind of taken away like Elijah and Enoch, but the Bible tells us in Deuteronomy that Moses died and was buried by the Lord. But it is still plausible and valid to think that Moses might be one of the two, especially with all the similarities between him and Elijah. Either way, these two ideas are out there, and I think it's good for us to know them while we consider the things that we read in the Bible. And I guess when that day comes, we will find out. I guess one could argue that Moses already came back at the transfiguration with Elijah. But either way, it's also interesting that these three men have had some similarities, as according to what the Bible says, in terms of their relationship with God and their purposes on the earth. In Enoch's case, as we're reading, his prophecy and preaching seem to be heavily towards the watchers or heavenly beings, even though he possibly also preached to the earthly people at the time, as it is implied by Jude, verse 14. So when that time comes, we'll know. And then in chapter 2 of our reading today, we come across this Enoch calendar, which we mentioned before, and we'll probably continue that tomorrow. But it basically seems like Enoch was given understanding of how the moon and the sun operate in their oaths. That's them functioning in their commitment or covenant with God, when the Bible talks about the fact that they stay obedient in their paths. But it basically outlines what we see today with the seasons and how at some points of the year it is darker and at some points of the year it is lighter, as it regards to the sun and the year, and then the moon and the markings of the months. I like how it uses the language portal, or some understand it to be gate, but I think that just points to the time that it was written and the language that was available to them. Each season contains 91 days of the 4 seasons, and the year is divided into 364 days as it regards to the sun. And then he describes the phases of the moon, the new moon, the waxing phase, the full moon, the waning phase, and darkened phase, and how these change roughly between 29 to 30 days. So we have resemblance of these in our lunar and solar calendars that many people follow all over the world today. And what is recorded here in Enoch is just one recording. People have recorded this kind of stuff in many different cultural traditions. Either way, it's kind of cool to see.
But above all, I think the point of it is just to highlight how obedient these luminaries are in following God, and in the same breath, how magnificent God is, that all things are under his authority. As magnificent as these luminaries are, they're not to be worshipped. And I think that is probably where generations in time past went wrong, where they would see this information about the sun and the moon and the stars and all these things and turn to them as idolatry, which I don't think is the intention of the writer here. God alone must be worshipped. They serve God. As great as they are, they serve God. So I pray that that would cause us to worship God even more if we sit and consider it, because he really is magnificent and holy and mighty. And we probably don't know the half of what that means. So we'll pause here for today, and then we'll continue tomorrow in chapter 2, which I think continues to outline this calendar stuff. And we'll see what else we can get from it then. But until then, blessings and happy reading. And remember, you can join us as we read through the entire Bible in a year. It's never too late to start. Just start exactly where we are today. You can find the information to follow along with that on our website at BIAYL.Project.com.